I wanted to read out a blog post. I guess it's a blog post from a Tumblr account I loved very much, but is now deactivated. The Tumblr account is Cesper Songles. Anyway, she is, I'm sure she still exists somewhere in the world, a very eloquent writer and very succinct, and I found that I related to so much of everything she had to say. So I wanted to share this post in particular because it really speaks to me, and I would akin it to exactly what my personal belief systems are as well. So on her blog, she received an anonymous message, and it said, "What is your thought of the term compulsory sexuality and how it's used on Tumblr? I think it has some merits, but I also feel like the political lesbians took it and ran with it. I'll often follow someone who claims to be a lesbian, but then she reblogs posts with tags commenting over how she's drooling over a male celebrity or character and how hot they are. Then you have the lesbian blogs claiming that it doesn't count and you can thirst after celebrity or fictional men and still be a lesbian, and I disagree. I've had male favorite characters and male actors who I admire for their skill, but asking me if I found them sexually attractive is like asking if I find a board of wood attractive. It's just really alienating, because fandoms are mostly dominated by het or bi women, and I think I find a lesbian friend to relate to, and then you find out she likes men. Now I don't even know who on Tumblr really is a lesbian, and I feel like if I actually said something against it, every political lesbian on this site would attack me. And I know you're not necessarily involved with the rest of Tumblr, since lesbians like you who speak their mind are ostracized and sent hate mail, but am I in the wrong to think like this? To be extremely skeptical of when people use the term compulsory heterosexuality? Should I try changing my perspective? You write really nice posts on lesbian issues, so I was just wondering what your take on it was. Thanks for listening." And Cesper Spongles replied with the following, which is kind of long, but I'm going to read it all because I think it's succinct, and I think it's important that these words get more exposure than just on her deactivated Tumblr. She stated, "I have a post in my drafts somewhere that I wrote a long time ago about how I felt completely annihilated by the vast majority of lesbian discourse on this website because you just find dozens upon dozens of posts about unlearning your attraction to men, or you can find men attractive but not want to have sex with them, or shout out to lesbians who had trouble figuring out if the way they felt about men was genuine or compulsory heterosexuality, etc. And it's just unrelatable. Personally, the way I felt about men was a mix of awareness that I felt nothing no matter how long I tried to stare at a designated hot guy hoping to develop a crush on him, depressed resignation to the fact that I would have to date one someday, immense anxiety at the thought of having sex with a guy, trying to convince myself that this anxiety, and any feeling I had for a guy no matter how negative, was normal nervousness due to a crush, and desperately wishing I could force myself to go through with it because then maybe I'd find out it's not that bad, etc. I wish compulsory heterosexuality referred to this kind of experience instead of, I can't quite figure out if my attraction to or crush on this guy is genuine or was somehow instilled in me by patriarchy. But of course it's not surprising that the latter is what can be freely discussed everywhere, while the experiences of women who never felt any sort of attraction to men are relegated to the margins at best and silenced at worst. Compulsory heterosexuality is not a theory that political lesbians took and ran with, though. It was developed by and for political lesbians. The original essay was about women choosing to be lesbians and suggested that we expand lesbianism into a lesbian continuum to embrace many forms of primary intensity between and among women, including the sharing of a rich inner life, the bonding against male tyranny, the giving and receiving of practical and political support. And, if I recall correctly, the, quote, many more forms of primary intensity between women, end quote, that could fit within the, quote, lesbian continuum, end quote, including nursing your infant daughter. As you say, the term compulsory heterosexuality has some merits. I think it could have been a useful term for actual lesbians to describe the many ways in which everyone, including LGBT, tries to force us to experience or admit to at least some mandatory minimum level of heterosexuality. But originally, it wasn't a term meant to help us make sense of our own struggles at all, so it's not surprising that the majority of people who seem to find this phrase helpful are not actually lesbians. I agree with you that a lot of non-lesbian women find the term compulsory heterosexuality very convenient and use it to demand that their attraction to men, past or present, be recognized as a valid lesbian experience. There's a lot of guilt tripping involved too. For example, it's harder to say, no, these feelings you experienced actually mean you don't fit the definition of lesbian, when said feelings are framed in terms of my traumatic struggle against compulsory heterosexuality. It's sad to say, but these days I just assume non-lesbian until proven otherwise, because most people who call themselves lesbians on this website are bi women or het men. And yes, the way some people use it, compulsory heterosexuality can definitely be a non-lesbian dog whistle, just like sapphic or WLW, which just means bi. It sucks because a lot of actual lesbians struggle with imposter syndrome with regard to their lesbianism, either because of lack of experience or because the whole world just keeps trying to convince them they can't really be homosexual, and having other lesbians be skeptical of them doesn't help. But we can thank all the lesbian otherkin on this website and in real life for our trust issues. Yeah, that perfectly sums up how I feel about compulsory heterosexuality. And I wanted to share that here because I think it's a really wonderful post. And I hope y'all have a great day. Bye.